morning. All right, I'm not gonna lie, my voice is a little tired because I was up late last night. I took a couple of breaks yesterday because I had other stuff going on. I wanted to catch the verses with Shaka Khan and Stephanie Mills, and that was quite interesting. I love Stephanie Mills, so I was not disappointed in that. But let's just say it was not Shaka's best evening, and we'll move on from that. So it's Finance Friday. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Sasheen. This is the Bliss Report, aka the Bliss Doctor. Thanks for tuning in this Friday. It's great to be back with you to chat about all things money, money mindset, money mantras, getting money, spending money, keeping money, giving money, all things money, because money is the blessing that makes our lives better in so many ways. So, what are we talking about today? We are talking about what is the Great Resignation of 2021. Did you know, fans? Did you know that in September saw a record-breaking number of resignations again? Since April of 2021, resignations have been increasing exponentially, and in September, it was a record-breaking number of people left their jobs. We're going to get into the 5 reasons why, based on the research that I've been reading. People are quitting their jobs, and you know who's quitting their jobs? People of our age, people who are over and women. I'm talking to you out here. People of a certain age, as I like to say, over the age of 35, are saying peace and are bouncing out. And I'll tell you why after we come back from a word from our sponsors. Today we have several, but no, I have at least 2. But I'm really excited to get into this and to really talk about it, because I don't know about you all, but I don't have a traditional job anyway. And so the idea of the Great Resignation for me happened a long time ago, but it has been an interesting couple of years. And to watch the number of of resignations, because not everyone who resigns is going to stay unemployed. And I think that's something that we have to be really clear about. But to watch the resignations rise and the reasons that people are saying, you know what, we don't have to do this anymore, are really, I think, heartening in some ways for the future of the humanness of our world. So, whether you're on the Peloton, on the treadmill, over coffee, over tea, on your morning commute, taking the kids to school, on the go, wherever you're listening to me this morning, thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to the Bliss Report. I am Dr. Sasheen, and we will be back right after a word from this sponsor. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Sasheen from So You're Getting Divorced? The podcast, here to talk to you about Anchor and the ease at which you too can launch and start your own podcast. If you haven't heard about Anchor, let me just break it down for you. Here is the 411. Number 1, it's free. This is a great way to get started if you've never done podcasting, or if you're a pro and you really like the idea of using your phone or your computer to get your podcast going without all the hassle, because number 2, they will distribute it for you to places like Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. That's a pretty sweet deal. Next, you can make money while you're doing your podcast with no minimum listenership, and that's pretty darn spectacular. So, follow these instructions. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Now, let's get back to the show. Okay, so are you out there, my listeners? Are you someone who has resigned this year? Leave me a comment. I'm going to post this question to the platform Spotify. If you listen to me on Spotify, you'll be able to answer it. If you catch me on, if you link over from Facebook or Instagram, you'll be able to leave it in the comments. But let me know, did you resign this year, and why did you choose to resign? What were your motivations for choosing to resign? And have you decided to return to work, or have you chosen to do something different? Have you chosen to reevaluate exactly what work means for you and what you want work to look like for you as you move forward? So as I was doing some reading, I came across some really interesting articles that are based in statistical analysis, looking at the numbers, crunching the numbers about resignations for this year. And the Harvard Business Review has an article that I found interesting about reasons that the demographics of people who are a part of the wave of great resignations. And, a lot of people think it's millennials who are just saying, peace out. But that's actually not accurate, because many millennials can't really afford to quit their jobs. They don't really have the income necessary to be able, let's face it, there are a lot of millennials who can't even afford to get their own place right now because they're just not making enough money. And that actually leads into a really good point about who is able to do the Great Resignation, and that is people over the age of 35. So according to, I'm going to forget his name, but it's the article is in the Harvard Business Review. The age group that is most significantly impacting the Great Resignation are between 30 and 45 years of age. 45 plus. So there's some waffling around after that 45, but between 30 and 45 years of age are the highest age group of people who are saying peace out to employers. There's a little bit of wiggle room between 20 and 35, not much happening, and 60 to 70, the 60 plus range, also not really resigning. If they're still working, they're not really resigning. And the thought process is that those are the two age brackets on either side that are feeling the most insecure financially. But I'm gonna stick with the age range that we find ourselves in, ladies. Between 30 and 45 year olds are the highest number of people who are resigning. Now, that's us. That's us. That is the people who have for years and years and years kept the engine of the economy for many businesses running. Those mid-level employees, the ones who are at the middle of their careers, if they're going to work until retirement, when they hit about 30 to 45, they're in the middle part of their career. They've got another 20, 25 years, potentially longer, that they're going to be working for a company. So this wave of resignations out of those middle levels, this is a pretty significant development if you own a company. And I was reading many articles looking at employers and companies that weren't really paying attention to the fact that they're losing a lot of this middle level employee and the problems that that's causing in their companies. Because if you start thinking about this, and I was fascinated by it, one of the articles I read was in the oh gosh, I forgot to write it down. Sorry, I read so much that sometimes I forget to write down where exactly I read it at, but it's out there. Was a trucking company who were losing a lot of people due to there's a transportation shortage. There's not a goods shortage. There's a transportation shortage, which is causing a goods crisis. So you can't really have one without the other. But a lot of the companies weren't really paying attention to the fact that because they're losing so many mid-level employees, and having to hire and train new people in huge quantities, that they're spending a lot of money right now just on trying to retain the people that they have, and then to hire and train a whole new group of people who have no institutional ethos, no institutional memory to step into a role quickly and swiftly to help kind of staunch the bleeding on some companies. And so they're spending a lot of money trying to figure out how to maneuver this wave of people who are just like, peace out, we're done, see ya. So what industries are hurting the hardest? According to what I was reading in the Harvard Business Review, tech and healthcare are the two biggest industries that are just bleeding people, pun intended. And the reasons for people coming out of those industries, at least what I'm reading through this article and others, is that for tech, the pandemic, obviously, and this is the first reason why people are resigning in great ways. On my list of 5, the 5 reasons that people are resigning and moving on in the Great Resignations. And the first is the pandemic. Let's start with healthcare. I don't think anyone out there is shocked that healthcare is bleeding people at this point. We have been in a pandemic since 2019, and it is 2021. The weight and strain of healthcare and on healthcare workers is unreal. It was always untenable. My parents have worked in healthcare in various capacities. I have cousins who work in healthcare. I have good friends who are nurses and doctors. The strain in healthcare has always been there, but it has never been like this. It's never been this weight on top of healthcare workers from the bottom to the top. And, the healthcare model is, at least in the United States, is driven by the dollar. Healthcare decisions are driven by the money that patients bring into a facility and how much procedures cost and things of that nature. And because of the way the system worked, it was very easy to take for granted all of the worker bees, the doctors and nurses, the techs and everyone else who did their jobs and did them well in the face of, some good pay but stagnant pay, more and more crazy patients, because I'm not going to pull any punches. People were already pretty crazy. And then the pandemic hit and they got even crazier. And so what seems to be happening is that healthcare workers are done. They're saying enough is enough. We're done. We cannot do this anymore. We do not have the capacity to keep putting up with the just enormous amounts of pressure to serve and be on the front lines during a pandemic, and the amount of backlash they get, the amount of hatred they get. Um, and so they're just saying, okay, there are other ways that I can be of assistance in the world. There are other ways that I can be useful in my profession. I do not have to do this. So healthcare workers are leaving. And part of that is due to the pandemic. Part of that is due to the fact that, wages for a certain segment of healthcare are not that great. I mean, I know everyone thinks that healthcare is a really lucrative industry if you can get into it, and it can be, but there are a lot of CNAs and your frontline workers who don't make doctors' salaries and who are the first line of defense for a lot of healthcare facilities. And so they take a lot of the brunt of disgruntled patients. And, a personal experience here, a friend of mine's father passed from COVID, and the amount of frustration just trying to get through the system, because there are so many parameters that are in place now that weren't in place before. I can't imagine what it must have been like to work in a hospital in the early days of the pandemic. And I used to watch the videos, and I would applaud the nurses and doctors and the healthcare workers as they went to work on the front lines. I'm going to just say on the front lines of this. And a lot of the burnout that they have to have experienced, I can't even imagine what they have gone through. And so for mental health, they're just saying, peace out. Tech is the same way. When the pandemic hit, a lot of companies had to rely on customer service and getting their goods and things to customers under enormous strains all of a sudden. It's one thing to order Amazon maybe once a month. People were ordering Amazon every single day. And Amazon is the behemoth that had to say, okay, hang on. We're going to get it all done, but dang, it's going to take us a minute to adjust to the fact that, yeah, people order from Amazon every single day, but the volume of need that was coming into places like an Amazon that are coming into their call centers, where the tech-driven call centers, the people who are, everyone's on their phone. And so all technology just, Zoom crashed, meetings all of a sudden couldn't happen because Zoom started crashing like left and right. And platforms for schooling, online schooling, when people didn't know what the heck was going to go, these platforms are crashing. And so the tech industry workers also frontline began to take the hit after hit after hit of the people calling in upset and angry, and not just upset and angry about the little inconvenience of your meeting crashing and you've got a meeting that you've got to be in. And that's to be understood. But the frustration of being locked away was just being taken out on people in tech and on the other ends of the phone who are just like trying to do their jobs. And so the pandemic really has brought into sharp relief for people the amount of work that they were doing and the amount of hard and underappreciated work that they were doing for the amount of money that they were getting. And they were like, I don't have to do this anymore. You know what? I really don't. I'm going to go ahead and make that career change. And so the second reason that I see for the Great Resignation is money. Like I was saying, a lot of the frontline workers in the healthcare field, they don't make a lot of money. They're not making, your techs aren't making a ton of money. And you might think, oh, they're making $30,000-$40,000 a year. You try living on $30,000-$40,000 a year and see how that gets you, right? And your tech workers, your IT, your frontline tech workers, they're not making a ton of money. The average IT person might make $50,000. That depends on where you live. That absolutely depends on where you live. And when you factor in cost of living and commute times, and things of that nature, a lot of people, and now we're moving out of just tech and healthcare, but a lot of people have realized that I can make better money doing something else and have less stress and have less interaction with really nasty people and have less controlling of a company that really doesn't care about me one way or the other, because obviously during the pandemic, a lot of the facade of the veneer of niceness faded away for a lot of things. And so the promise of better pay and less stress is a siren song for a lot of people. So they're resigning because the money's better someplace else. And what they've realized is that they don't have to stay where they are to have a good life, right? So better money and the possibility of a better life is causing people to say, okay, I can leave a New York or a California or Chicago or someplace really expensive, do similar, the same, or even better work for a company someplace else and have a better quality and standard of life, get better pay for what I'm doing, And don't, if you think that they're just resigning and hanging around the US, they're resigning and doing all kinds of things. They're doing all kinds of things. But the point is, money is driving people's decision to resign. And because of the Great Resignation, you have this domino effect of people are resigning for better money. And now companies are like, we've got to pay better money to get people to come back. But if the job doesn't change, how do you pay people to come back to what could just be a hotbed of bad work? Still, I don't know about you, but I literally look at this coming shopping season and I am like, I don't even want to step inside a store. I don't want to step inside a store. There's no way you're going to convince me to step inside a store if I don't have to go to do any kind of shopping at all. And that's because I, before the pandemic, hated the Christmas shopping season and all that it entailed. I was a teenager. I worked seasonal jobs during Christmas. I feel like it's gotten completely out of hand in recent years. And now that we're kind of quote unquote back open and people are they're shopping post pandemic, trying to make this holiday the best holiday. There's no way I want to be on the front lines of customer service. And so imagine being a company going, we really need people who are willing to work, and they're raising their starting pay, and they are still unable to get people. And that's because even though people are leaving for better money, certain jobs are going to go unfulfilled a lot longer because the money can't compensate for dealing with the general public. Example, my grocery store is really struggling with getting people to take their jobs and to stay. And so there's a big sign in front of my grocery store, if you walk in, that says, we are hiring. Here is the starting pay, but it doesn't stop there. We're going to pay this and this and this from day one. And this is happening because even though people may be resigning, they do not want to have to be front facing to the public. And I'm going to put it out there that we are causing this problem. The general public is causing part of the the dearth of people who are willing to step into roles that desperately need bodies right now. So many companies are saying we will pay $18, $21 an hour if we can just get people to stay, to come into the door and stay. But the public has become extraordinarily callous in their treatment of frontline workers. I'm just going to put it out there. This is going to offend some people who may feel like it's their right to be however they want to be in public. I was not raised that way. And so I'm just going to say this. As a woman of a certain age, I have watched and whose family has been very blue collar and worked in the service sector for many, many, many generations. It appalls me sometimes when I see the way that frontline workers are treated by very entitled people. And then we wonder why companies are having such a hard time retaining people to do customer service. And then I wouldn't want to be on the phone. I would never want to be on the phone as a tech person because people are horrible. They say the meanest, horriblest things. And so the money is one reason that people are moving, and companies are trying to lure people with good money. But unfortunately, some industries are just going to suffer, and you're going to see that suffering continue because nobody wants to take the jobs anymore, and they don't have to take the jobs anymore that put them on the front lines of a public that is in some ways out of control with their attitudes and their expectations, and also with the physicalness, the actual physical danger that sometimes is presented by the public. Have you seen the videos of Black Friday shoppers fighting and carrying on over televisions, for God's sakes? I don't know about you, but I have a child, and one day he will probably want to go get a job. I mean, I hope he doesn't, because I'm trying to teach him to be an entrepreneur. But should he want to, I would never let him work in those environments. Why would I? Okay. So the third reason I think for the Great Resignation stems from from number two, the money. A lot of people are realizing that they can start a business, that they have the flexibility to do so, that they have a skill, a gift, a talent that would actually earn them probably the same, similar, if not better money than they were making at a job. And so they're going to take their chance and they're going to start a business, because the pandemic has really brought to light the priorities of a lot of people were in the wrong place. And what people really want is more of their life back. Not sitting in 3-hour commutes, not working just to pay the rent, not trying to keep up with everything while spending less and less time doing the things that they love, because the promise of work was to free you from the idea of constantly having to work just to get by. But the reality of work is that it didn't set a lot of people free. In fact, it just became the chains that held them in place. And so With the Great Resignation, there appears to be a trend also in a growing number of businesses being open, especially by women. Hello out there, ladies. What did I just say? The average age of people who are resigning between 30 and 45 plus, that's us. And guess what we're doing? We're starting businesses. We are taking our skill set, recognizing what we're really good at, refining our desires, and we're getting out there. We're putting ourselves out there in those streets, and we're saying, I can do this. If the pandemic did nothing, it clarified for a lot of women especially that the burnout is real. It is a real thing. And so businesses are starting to form again, and there are opportunities now where there may not have been before to break into industries to make more localized businesses flourish again because of some of the supply chain issues that are out there, because of some of the customer service issues that have popped up. I don't know about you, but I have this app on my phone called Nextdoor. I'm not promoting them or anything. I just happen to have it on my phone. And I do keep an eye on what people are always asking about, the services that they're always looking for. And in my area, consistently, it's always, do you know a good plumber? Does anyone have a good lead on a good chiropractor? Does anyone know where I can find a good housekeeper? Does anyone know where I can find a good, I need someone to pick up my kids after school. Does anyone have a lead on a good service for da da da? There are so many industries right now that are just hurting for good people with good businesses. And so businesses, small businesses, freelancers, job creators, they're booming. Those little businesses are starting to come back. And remember what we always really understood, which was that Main Street was never really populated by big corporations. Main Street was populated by small businesses. When we got away from that and we went home and onto our computers in essence and said, okay, I'm going to go shop at the big Walmart store as opposed to the mom and pop, and the mom and pops all went away. In a pandemic, what we realized is that, oh my gosh, I don't know about y'all, but I found toilet paper in the darndest places, and it was not the big box stores. I found things that I needed in very interesting places that I realized that, you know what, if these places weren't still here, a lot of people would have been really hurting. And a lot of little stores got their stuff faster than big stores did. So people are leaving and they're starting businesses. And I encourage this. I have my own business. I have a podcast. I have YouTube channels. I do ebooks and digital products. Speaking of which, for the second plug today, if you haven't picked up Power Moves, the big book of affirmations for finances and wealth, this is a great time to do it. It's $47. The link is in the bio. And I talk about affirmations and money and all of those things today, because if you are in the process of refiguring out your financial house and realigning the rooms of your financial house, some of the wealthiest and most financially successful people have a pattern of their behavior. And one of the things that they have are clear financial practices. And one of those practices, especially the women that I study for financial literacy, one of those practices are clear money affirmations that bring peace and prosperity into their life. And so I wrote the big book of Power Moves, because that's what money is. It allows us to make power moves. The big book of affirmations for finances and wealth. I wrote that for women out there who understand the power of correct thinking, who understand the power of our words to bring us to the level that we want to get to achieve the finances that we want to. And so it's $47. There's the link in the bio. Pick it up. And as a bonus in there, I believe, for Black Friday, if you want to wait, and I encourage you to wait, like I'm good with that. For Black Friday, you'll be able to get the 7 Steps of Financial Security and Power Moves, the big book of affirmations for finances and wealth. You'll be able to get both of those books bundled together for, wait for it, $50. So the Financial Freedoms book is $47 normally. Power Moves is $47 by itself. So these 2 books alone, okay, just by themselves, almost $100. You'll be able to get both of them for $50. It's a steal. So you can pick it up today, but just wait, because you're going to be able to get on Black Friday for 50% off. And you're going to be able to get both of them together for 50% off. And if I'm feeling really generous, you'll be able to get them both for even less than that. But I want you to put this in your head. Women are starting businesses. It's time for you to think about if you have a skill set, an idea, a dream that you want to pursue to bring financial security into your family's life that isn't dependent upon another company's bottom line. Now, I'm not saying this is for everyone, because again, People are also resigning to take better jobs with better pay and more flexibility. So it's not as though people aren't going to be employed. We need employees just like we need employers. But maybe you're ready to be an employer and people are quitting to go do that very thing. Now, the fourth reason, we've already touched on a bit, and that's the different priorities. Being in a pandemic really opened a lot of people's eyes, and coming out of that pandemic at various stages around the country, people began to see that not much had changed, but everything could change. And that's really important. Not much in terms of how business was done, except going online. Oh, wait, that's a change. No more micromanaging from really middle management we couldn't figure out what the purpose was. Oh, wait, that had changed. No more having to get up and commute in traffic for 90 minutes. That's a change. No more having to go to eat out at lunch every day. That's a change. No more having to factor in gas and wear and tear on car. That's a change. Oh my gosh, I can have dinner with my family and not be exhausted because of my workday. That's okay. Hold up. Apparently, a lot changed. Priorities shifted completely. And though it got hard, like I'm a single mom and I have a little boy, and there's homeschooling, there's running a business, there's running a household. It's tough. But during the pandemic, when life stopped, literally life stopped, it became very clear that the things that were really important in 2018, 2019 are still important in 2021 going into 2022. But what's important, the weight of what's important has shifted and changed. It has shifted and changed. Okay. And this is why I talk about knowing your big rocks. Knowing your priorities, understanding where you stand, and then being able to bend and negotiate with yourself if you need to change your stance. Even if your priority doesn't change, the stance of that priority in your life may change. So understanding your stance and knowing where you are in your priorities helps a whole lot when the pandemic hits and the world shuts down. And I'm not going to lie, I struggled there for probably 6 to 9 months with, okay, what is my life going to look like? What is our life going to look like on the other side of this? And so I have recommitted to being an entrepreneur, to being a podcast host, to selling digital products, to building my media empire, because I believe that the work that I do out in the world to help women of my age and older get to their next best life and not spend the next 40 years doing the same thing that's making them miserable. I think that's so important, especially women who are divorced or go through a divorce after the age of 40 and are like, good gracious, now what am I supposed to do? I never thought I'd end up here. Like, I know that feeling of trying to figure out what to do next. And so this is the journey of my life, is to inspire those women to say, you know what, you got this. And here are so many options that you can do, so many processes and practices that I can give you to help you. But realigning your priorities is, bottom line, the most important thing that you can do for yourself starting today. Getting your big rocks in place, figuring out what those 4 or 5, 6, no more than 6 things are that you just are not going to negotiate on. You just aren't going to do it. People did that during the pandemic. They said, my priorities are out of whack. They have been skewed sideways. And since they have been skewed sideways, I have got to refigure out what it is that's important to me. And they did. And they've come out of 2021 going, this job ain't it. It ain't it. It's not it. So priority shifting was the fourth big reason for the Great Resignation of 2021. And finally, the pandemic gave us a gift, and that is remote work. Say it with me. Remote work. Okay. The big myth of business is that you have to have people in an office in order to do quality work. The pandemic said, you sure don't. In fact, if you put people at home and take some stress off them needing to be in the office, they actually can get way more productive. The canary is out of the coal mine. The cat's out of the bag. The secret is out of Pandora's box. People are simply not willing to go back into the office if they don't have to. It is going to be very difficult, hence the Great Resignation of 2021. It is going to be very difficult to convince people who have been literally working from a corner office or a closet or a desk in their home for 19 months, 20, almost, gosh, we're coming up on 2 years, that they have to come back into an office. That they have to, because in order to come back to an office, they have to reaffirm to a priority that they may no longer hold about their lives or about business. And because they no longer hold it, because they have now seen it with their own eyes, what can and cannot be done remotely, They're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And so businesses are going to have to pivot to figure out how to convince people that remote work for some industries is not the way to go and that they do need to come back into the office. Because how do you justify these huge office buildings that are empty when people are staying at home? Now, there are some jobs you're just not going to be able to remote out. This is just not going to happen. Warehouse workers, truck drivers, hospitals, it's just not going to happen. And so money may be driving people to move around. But for a lot of those mid-levels, and this is that age range, okay, that's really resigning. These are those people, those mid-level employees, those mid-career employees got a chance to work from home for almost 2 years, and they like it. They like it, and they see zero reason to come back to the water cooler. They see zero reason to have to go buy all brand new clothes every week. They see zero reason to have to sit in traffic and commute. They see zero reason to have to stay in locations where their rent is so high. And the way that, yes, they might be compensated really well for it, for the cost of rent, but the cost of living is also so high that they make good money, but they can't really enjoy any of it. And so the remote work option is here to stay. And so people are resigning to go to companies that understand that the landscape has changed. And they will either get on board and get the good workers, or they will not, and they will continue to dig their heels in, and they will lose. And so some industries may not be here next year. Some companies may not ever be able to recover in the way that they were before. They may scale down, they may go away. But the reality is that the worker has understood, the employee has now understood some really important things. And because of that understanding, we are in the Great Resignation. So I hope this was informative for you today, and it inspires you to look around your own life and see exactly what it is that you hold near and dear and valuable. Have you changed? Are your priorities now different to the point where you're ready to make some significant changes? Were you part of the Great Resignation, or are you right there? Are you going to usher in one final wave of the Great Resignation in 2021? And will there be another wave in 2022? I think there will be. I do think that we will see another wave of resignations. But again, not everyone who's resigning is not taking another job. They have just chosen to move on from a job that was not serving them. Did you start your own business? Did you move? Tell me all about it. Leave me a comment. Shoot me an email. support@SashinMobley.com. I love talking to you all. All right. So hopefully this was helpful to you. Again, don't forget, Power Moves, the big book of finance and wealth. Power Moves, the big book of affirmations for finances and wealth, and the 7 Steps of Financial Security. Both are $47. Both are on sale right now on Black Friday, which is coming up. They will be bundled together for that 24-hour period, and they will be bundled together, and both of them together will be $50. They might be $47 for both of them. We'll see what happens. We'll just see what happens. My point is, they're going to be on sale, and if you're listening on Finance Friday, I know that you understand how important it is to have your plan in place and your affirmations on point so that you can have the life that you want. This has been Dr. Sashin. As always, it's my pleasure to serve you and to talk to you. Have a great weekend, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye.